What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the 20th episode of the MedSpa Accelerator podcast, brought to you by Cass Clinical Consulting and Everable Marketing. I'm Luis Trevino, and I'm joined today with Cassie Craig. And today, like we promised in our last episode, Cassie, this is like a second part episode, right? Because last week we talked about how you can get an influx of appointments by implementing a reactivation campaign using text message. And today we want to talk about, well, what happens after you get those appointments, right? Like, how do you make sure that you can really capitalize on getting those people in? So Cass is going to talk about something that she's implementing right now that's working really, really well. So Cass, I'll let you take over.
Yeah, so protecting any investment, whether it's time, energy, whatever, money, all of that, we want to protect it and make sure that any campaign that we run is structured enough and everybody is organized enough to close the deals and get more sales and get more raving fans, like you were saying. So, I mean, this is complex, but I'm going to try to keep it simple. So, number one, we want to make sure that all the team knows what's going on, because a lot of times there's like a weekly special or something that we send out in an email campaign. And if the memo doesn't get out, then there's confusion, and confusion is the one thing to avoid.
I've seen that where like we're running an ad campaign and then the somebody calls in, the front desk is like, oh, I was calling in about and then they're like, and then the front desk
hold please, let me go ask.
Yeah, let me go ask. And it's like a horrible experience. So.
Remember, first impression is everything, and that first impression happens very fast. It's very hard to overcome a bad first impression. And so if the office feels unorganized, I mean, people are, even if it's just a facial, because we are a medical industry, people take these investments very seriously and they don't want anything but an expert touching them. Specialists only. So if I call the front desk and it does not sound like these people know what's going on, it's the last place I'm going to hand over my credit card and trust people to take my dollars and spend them wisely. Yeah. So organization with your team, understanding sales protocols, like making sure that everybody understands how to get a close. I don't know how many offices at the end of, and I hear this all the time, at the end of a consultation, they just say, okay, well, if you have any questions, give us a call. And that's not going to turn into any sales. And I guess that's it. Let's dive into those two things, like sales generally. And we did the anatomy of the consult, so you guys can even refer back to, what was that, a 3-part?
Yeah, that was a 3-part episode. Make sure to check that out.
With my 6 steps in the consultation, being preparation, hugely important, rapport, your value proposition, science, answering questions, assessment, and price presentation. And I break those down thoroughly in that episode.
Yeah.
So I'm going to really dive a little bit further into like getting the team on board, because
So how do you do it? Because obviously it's like, a lot of times the doctor or the owner is very involved, but if you want to grow and build a team, like you need to start letting other people help you make money for you. Right. And so,
which means allowing them to make mistakes.
Yeah. So you talk about organization, that's really big. So how can we motivate them? How can we help them just perform?
Well, I love, we just initiated this reactivation campaign recently. And something that you did to help my staff was you videoed kind of the experience of the customer from beginning to end. When they opt in, this is what happens. And once the team experiences it, it builds this deeper level of empathy and deeper level of understanding for their consumer. So that's so important. If you don't have somebody like Luis, then just have people enter into your sales funnels, enter into your marketing, like go in and apply for this offer, or text yes if you're doing that text.
Or be in your email list, right? If you send an email blast,
I don't know how many, just faux pas. In fact, we had a phone number that was wrong in an email. We would have never found that. That would have run and we would have not known why nobody was calling if I hadn't had my staff go through it, because both you and I went through it and we were like, yep, okay. And one of the staff members found it. So more eyes is better for editing and for everybody being on the same page.
For sure.
And then, it just goes to systemizations. It just goes to, what are people saying on that first phone call? Did you tell them? Because every phone call can't be handled exactly the same. Knowing the numbers, how many people did call off of this specific campaign. I need to know those numbers immediately, but especially gathering them over 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I need to know them every day.
Well, one of the things, going back to numbers, and that I know you recently mentioned that was actually working out really well for you, was the staff actually like tallying.
Yes.
This
was great. I'm really proud of myself for this one. So short testimonial, because we just talked about letting go and letting people make mistakes.
Yeah.
Hugely difficult, like really, really difficult. If I run through and I hear somebody give misinformation on the phone, or it could have been done better, I want to grab the phone and do it, or I want to call somebody back and do it. And it's so important for me to communicate to my staff that I trust them. So important for me to step back. And if I see something that needs to be changed, to make a training, to handle it very professionally and not just jump in and criticize. So recently I took to my clinical director and I said, I want my salespeople, which I have about 10 total. So I want them all to understand the numbers behind the business, because I wanted to build ownership in this project. I wanted them to see their part and how they can help the business grow. And I really wanted them to feel a part of it. So I gave them whiteboards and I said, you guys create sales boards like at a car salesman might have, or any kind of like telemarketing place, you might see a sales board, right? I think most people are accustomed, even from movies, we've seen these like grid boards.
Yeah.
I know what this board should look like. I know what I want. I did not fill the board out. I told them, ask our team for 10 numbers that they think they could follow, maybe 3 of those being kind of gross revenue numbers on different departments, like my memberships and my cool sculpting and my injectables. Like I want to know gross, but more than gross numbers, I want to know the intricacies. We talked about the funnel and the upside down funnel, all these steps that a client goes through in the lifetime of their relationship with my business. What do you think we can improve to ultimately help those bottom line numbers, but not be focused and not feel a lot of pressure about getting the close? So fast forward a week, I walk in and they have these sales boards up, and I still would do them differently somewhat, but we're on the right track. And these girls, I was there yesterday, I was doing a training and I could see out of the corner of my eye, the girls on the phones. And one of my staff had the dry erase, they tally. So they're tallying every time. One of the numbers they're following is how many appointments are set every day, no-shows, cancellations. How many appointments do we get deposits on versus not? So I see her, she has set an appointment. She's got her dry erase marker and she's going to tally next to a consultation booked. And she's doing this little dance. And so what I realized was this board built enthusiasm for the calls themselves, which is the one thing that, we're treatment providers. Like we don't want to be on the phones all day. So one of the challenges I've faced is how do I pull the monotony out of phone calls and get people excited about their first opportunity to connect with a patient? These are usually cold leads, right? Or colder. So she's doing this little like victory dance. And I just realized like what we created there was not only she's prideful, right? Like she's proud that she set the appointment, she got the deposit, so she got to make 2 little tallies. We also gave her a little opportunity, a valid excuse to get up and put the headset down and walk over to the board and do a little dance, the energy that happens. It's just been a beautiful project that all of them, when I walk in the door now, are bragging, they're celebrating those small wins. Like, hey, I had to read this text message conversation. Oh my gosh. Or let me tell you about this patient, or I just booked this. And so it's just, that's one of the things that, and it took me this long to really kind of implement. But I'm celebrating that I stepped back and I handed off a project that I could have in less time done, not a better job, but a job that was done. Like I could have completed this whole project and said, here's the board we're going to fill out. But I would have just added another task to the have-tos instead of inspired them to bring their brains in. And so it's interesting. Ever since these boards were displayed, I've seen more ideas come through that are not about this board than I've ever seen. I had one staff member approach me with a list of events and ideas to do at these events. That kind of stuff wasn't happening before with not my lower level, like my mid-levels, right? It was always the executives having the ideas. Well, now I've got their brains working and excitement, enthusiasm. And it's just been a beautiful thing that I'm glad I initiated like I did. And I really encourage people to, of course, observe closely, but don't micromanage your staff's projects, and let them be a part of this, especially the bigger you grow. If you have a team of more than 3 people, meetings regularly with these people and building that's another thing I really want to stress, is a safe environment for mistakes.
Yeah.
I want all of my staff to know, if you blow this next phone call and you say the most horrible, wrong thing ever, I've got your back, because mistakes happen and we can laugh about it, because I bet I've made a worse mistake and I'll tell you, it's okay if that next sale isn't going to make or break this. I want them to feel confident.
So going back to like those 2 things, right? Like, one, I think you created a process, and I honestly believe the reason why it works so well is because gamification. Like, people love that. People love to compete. People love to feel that sense of like that they're improving, that they're getting better. And I think like making it a game of somehow, like, and that was such a elegant tactic, I want to say, because it's so simple and it just got the job done very, very well. And
I want to back up when you say gamification, because that is where I planned on going with this. And let me say that I've had this idea since I opened the doors almost 3 years ago. So every idea takes time to initiate and really get the machine going efficiently. I've made mistakes and I bumped into walls to figure this out. But gamification, so what I want to do is, these tallies. Say esthetician number 1 made 10 tallies for consultations booked, and her no-show rate on those consultations was less than the company average in a week. That's a huge thing to celebrate. Maybe she didn't even make any sales, but I know this person's setting consultations that I can guarantee they're going to come in.
Yeah.
So what I want to do, I worked for a telemarketing center when I was like one of my very first jobs. I'd walk down the street to this little carpet cleaning sales company, and I'd work on the phones all day. And at the end of each shift, they gave these opportunities based on things like that, like consultations booked, appointments that you set that actually purchased. And they had this little game at the end, whether it be a putt-putt with, say, like a $5 line and a $10 line set up, or a dartboard, or a little basketball swish hoop over the trash can. And they would put these little games in place. So at the end of the shift, I was making like $10 an hour. At the end of the shift, I had the opportunity to usually bonus myself $5 to $10. And it wasn't the money as much as the break in monotony, the kind of shift to this is fun in my mind, like the mindset part that was really motivating and got me through my shift. I knew it was coming. And so I would do my best, even if I didn't want to. And so there's lots of little things that I plan on doing with these little tally marks, such as, a little putt-putt game at the end of the week or something to let them walk away with a little cash in hand. But I appreciate your compliment that it was done elegantly. It was done the wrong way a few times first.
No, I mean, that's good. I mean, you have to do it wrong to get it right.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's awesome. And so, okay. So, talked about the gamification. And the other thing that really stood out, what you said, was in regards to just giving them a safe environment to fail. I think that's huge. And I think that we don't really appreciate that a lot of the times, because people, hey guys, like, people are afraid. They're going to be afraid, they're going to be afraid to mess up, and then they're going to be afraid to tell you, which is even worse.
Yeah.
And you don't want that in a business. You don't want that in
Most
an organization.
People that I talk to. So when I start working with people, oftentimes I will interview the physician or the business owner, and then I will interview privately their staff. And most business owners think that they have an open door policy, that their staff can come to them with anything, that they treat people fairly, that it's a safe environment to make mistakes. Most staff does not feel that way.
Yeah.
So it takes regular, constant reinforcement on these ideas. You can't just say, it's okay to make a mistake and then walk around stressed out when mistakes are happening. they don't align.
Yeah.
So one of the great ways that I have built this kind of safe environment is not by telling them that they're safe, but by really modeling that with regular sales meetings. We review our phone calls, and we always, all of us bring our worst and our best. And so we can put our worst out there knowing everybody has one and laugh about it together. That's really what's made this a safe place. It's not me saying it to them, but them together listening to the mistakes and growing from them, and it really being reinforced with the behaviors in the company.
For sure. No, that's a really good point. I think that like, hey, bring your worst one and bring your best one, because you know what? We're all going to laugh about that worst.
Yeah. We've all been there. We've all just, I remember one little girl, she did a phone call and we listened to it, and I was like, what were you doing there? She was like, I don't know. I just started and it was happening. So I went with it. And I'm like, but we all laugh together. And it's like, then it's okay if they know I'm listening to their calls. Then it's okay if they know I'm standing behind them, because I'm not going to criticize without constructivity to it. Sure. Right. But then also bringing our wins. And it's interesting because I often ask my patients, what's your favorite feature? And they stutter. They don't know.
Yeah.
I often ask my staff, hey, tell me about a win that you had this week. And they just stop, because all they can think about is where they messed up. And then this is the human condition, I think. Like, we just that's how we get better, is we look at how we messed up. But it's also important to have compassion for that. And we can't build that inside with ourselves if we can't build it in the group.
For sure. No, that's really, really good. And then the last thing that I picked up on that I think is key is like, well, how are we, like, team bonuses, right? Like, how are we compensating? How are we motivating them to really just do a better job, even if it's
who's heard from a rep or a PDM that they should pay a commission per syringe on a sale, or a commission per cycle, an application of a cool sculpting? Like, I hope my PDM doesn't watch this. My PDM has told me things like, a lot of plastic surgery centers pay their staff $20 per application of a cool sculpting cycle. And that seems to work really well. Well, really, how much are they selling in cool sculpting? Because my staff can easily put 40 cycles on in a day. That's a little bit expensive to the business. How do we run marketing and stuff if we do that? So it's not, the psychology of the bonus is not about the amount of the bonus. People will work for less money in a great environment because they're happy. So it's not always a financial incentive, though financial incentives tend to work. I love them. But if we can keep it in that gamification, like that group, rather than the commissions group, like small bonuses regularly, the way that I do it, and it's actually a tax benefit as well. And I think I've said it before, is I use gift cards. You can use $25 gift cards, and it just be not a taxable event when you buy them and give them to your clients or your staff. And so we do little, like, if you set an appointment and they actually show up, you get $2. And if you have a no-show, you get a negative $1. And if you have somebody purchase that you set that appointment, you get $5. And if you close the deal that you set the appointment, then you get $10 or something like that. It's just these little small things, but they have their little lists. And when they hit 25, then they get a gift card and they submit it for their gift card. That works fantastic. I have the most motivated team I've ever seen, ever, in this industry as well as any other. And I pay them well, but their salaries are what pay them. These are just little games for some free gas at the end of the week or something, so that's it's really not, you don't have to give away, what's that saying? Anyway, don't give away the whole business, because then you can't grow the business.
No, that's good.
Other things in your team.
Even what you said before about like that experience you had with that, with the telemarketing company or whatever it was.
Right.
Like, it's just a game.
Well, I despised that job and that conversation. And I would sit at this little computer and a script would come up and you had to fill in the blank with the person's name, but it was the same paragraph. And I usually got hung up on in the first sentence. And so I played with different ways because I wanted commissions. So I played with different ways with intonation and diction and, like how to present this message, this paragraph. But what seemed to work the best for me was knowing that, like, it just kept me motivated, even though I didn't want to say those words. Nobody around me knew that I didn't want to say those words, because I was motivated.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really, really good. I had, yeah, like, making some game out of it and then making commission or bonuses off of that game and the way they get to play that game.
It was small, but people think, like, at the end of the day, if I made $25 and I worked 10 hours, well, I just averaged an extra $2.50 an hour. That's a raise.
Yeah.
And so it's people. Anyway, it's not just money that motivates people. In fact, I have hired people who left high-paying jobs because of the culture and the environment to come to something that was more fun and safe and growth-oriented.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, that's good. All right. I think that was like, I mean, I think this was a great episode, actually.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really gold nuggets there. I mean, so
I'd say go back and listen to the first one and then listen, like, put these two together, guys, and take the marketing direction and then think about how you can get your team to perform as a unit.
So just to recap, so we talked about organization, right? Making sure that everybody's on the same page. We talked about implementing some type of gamification. You gave a really good tactic in regards to the sales board. Obviously, those are not there for patients to see, right? Like they're somewhere else. Yeah.
Okay. No, but it's also, it's in an employee place, but it's also a tally system. So the actual numbers are kept in a computer, like a spreadsheet. So that's calculating stuff. These are just tallies. They just walk and make a tally. Even if a patient saw it, it's obviously just work stuff. It's not like today we made $25,000 on the wall.
Gotcha. Okay, good. And then, so that's the whole gamification piece to it. And then really just about being in a safe environment that's open, but then even when it comes to like bonuses and again, making bonuses a way of like adding gamification to bonuses,
or even systemizing and structuring bonuses. Like think about the whole thing there, the business and everything, because everything has to perform with longevity. And I think the hidden message here also that I'm giving is, I said it in the beginning, time takes time. If you implement a new idea, it's going to show you all the reasons it's not going to work first, and you have to get through those. And so you implement a gamification system and you think it's going to go great, and then you have two people who are fighting over a sale and you realize you have to step back and look at things. So kind of sticking in to your ideas and sticking them out and asking how they can be better. Don't quit before the miracle happens.
That's good. That's good. That's good. All right. Well, I think that was like that last piece to realize that was the cherry on top. All right. Thank you so much, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Join us on our Facebook group. Go to MedSpa Accelerator on Facebook. You'll find the group. Request access. We'll get you on there. And make sure you subscribe to our podcast. Leave us a review. And again, if you have anybody that you would love to, be on the podcast, if you would like to be on the podcast, send us a message. Let us know. We'd love to have you. And we'll catch you guys next week. Have a good one.